The communication room on Velan Prime was silent except for the soft humming of machines. Thesara stood before the emergency broadcast system, her thin fingers shaking as they moved across the controls. She had sent 47 distress calls in the past 6 days. Not a single species had responded with help. Outside the tower windows, she could see the sky changing color. The Chromath swarm was getting closer. Their ships blocked out the stars, making the night sky look like a moving shadow. Soon they would begin the harvest. Soon her entire world would be consumed. The Vellani people were not warriors. Their bodies were fragile, their bones light and hollow like the birds of ancient earth. A fall from standing height could break their legs. A strong wind could knock them down. Their military existed only to maintain peace among their own people, not to fight invaders from space. They had shields, but shields could only delay the inevitable. Thesara's communication officer, Velan, approached her slowly. His face showed the same fear that everyone felt. "Ambassador, the Council wants to know if anyone will help us." She looked at him and felt her heart sink. She had 2 hearts, like all Vellani, and right now both felt heavy with grief. "No one is coming, Velan. The Korthan Empire said we are too far from their space. The Maxari Federation calculated that fighting the swarm would cost more than saving us is worth. The Yulani Collective simply did not respond at all." Velin's eyes filled with tears. His family lived in the southern continent where the swarm would arrive first. "So we just wait to die?" Thesara wanted to tell him something hopeful, but she had no hope left to give. The galactic community operated on cold logic. Every species measured risk against reward. The Chromath swarm had consumed 40 worlds over the past century. They were a force that grew stronger with every planet they devoured. Fighting them was not just dangerous, it was foolish. She turned back to the broadcast system. "I will send one more message. After that, we evacuate as many people as we can to the underground shelters. It will not save us forever, but it might buy us a few more weeks." Her fingers moved across the controls, setting up the emergency broadcast on every frequency known to galactic civilization. She thought about what to say. What do you tell the universe when your entire species is about to be erased from existence? She pressed the record button and began to speak. "This is Ambassador Thesara of Velan Prime. Our world is under attack by the Chromath swarm. They will reach our planet in 3 days. We have no military capable of stopping them. We have no weapons that can hurt them. We are asking, one final time, for help from any species that can hear this message." Her voice broke. "We know the cost is high. We know the risk is great. But we are mothers and fathers. We are children and elders. We are a civilization that has existed for 8,000 years. Please, if anyone can hear this, please help us." She ended the transmission and sat down. Her legs could not hold her weight anymore. Velan placed a hand on her shoulder and they sat together in silence, waiting for the end. 3 days passed like a slow nightmare. The Chromath ships moved into orbit around Velan Prime. Their vessels were living things, grown rather than built, pulsing with organic machinery that defied understanding. They released small harvester drones that began descending toward the surface. The harvest would begin within hours. Thesara was in the underground shelter when the alarms started screaming. But these were not invasion alarms. These were detection alarms, the kind that warned of new ships entering the system. She ran to the command center, her hearts racing. On the screens, she saw something impossible. Dozens of ships had appeared at the edge of their star system. No, not dozens. The computer was still counting, 60, 70. The signatures were unlike anything in the galactic database. "Who are they?" the defense minister asked, his voice filled with desperate hope. The communication officer was trying to identify the ships. "The encryption is old, very old, like nothing we have in our modern systems. Wait, I am getting a message." Everyone in the room held their breath. The message appeared on the screen in simple galactic standard language. "Rescue fleet en route. Hold position. Terra Defense Coalition." Thesara read it 3 times. Terra? What is Terra? Is that a species name? Nobody knew. The galactic database had no record of any civilization called Terra. No member species. No colony worlds, nothing. It was as if these ships had appeared from nowhere. "Maybe they are using an old name," Velan suggested. "Some species change their designation over time." The defense minister was watching the tactical display with growing confusion. "These ships are moving too fast. The speed they are traveling at should tear apart any known hull design. And their size. Some of these vessels are larger than our entire defense station. Thessera felt a strange mixture of hope and fear. Someone had answered her call. But who were they? And why was there no record of them anywhere in galactic civilization? The Chromath swarm seemed to notice the new arrivals. Their harvester drones stopped descending. Their bioships in orbit began moving into defensive formations. Even the swarm, which feared nothing, seemed uncertain about these unknown vessels. It took the human fleet 18 hours to cross the distance from the system edge to Valen Prime. 18 hours where the entire planet held its breath. Thessera did not sleep. She watched the screens as the unknown ships approached, getting larger and larger. When they finally arrived in orbit, Thessera saw them clearly for the first time. The ships were angular, covered in armor plating that looked thick enough to withstand direct hits from weapons that should destroy them. Every surface seemed to bristle with weapons. Missiles, cannons, energy projectors, and devices she could not identify. These were not exploration vessels. These were warships designed with only one purpose: destruction. The largest ship, the one leading the fleet, positioned itself between Valen Prime and the Chromath swarm. It was massive, easily 5 times the size of the biggest Vallani station. On its hull, in letters large enough to see from the planet's surface, was written a name: Indomitable. The communication system activated. This is Admiral Kang Minho of the Terra Defense Coalition, commanding the fleet vessel Indomitable. We received your distress call, Valen Prime. We are here to help. The voice was strong, confident, with an accent Thessera had never heard before. She grabbed the communication device with shaking hands. Admiral Kang, this is Ambassador Thessera. We are grateful beyond words. But you must know the Chromath swarm has destroyed 40 worlds. They cannot be stopped. You should leave while you can. There was a pause, then a sound that made Thessera's skin go cold. It was laughter. The Admiral was laughing. Ambassador, we did not travel 800 light years to run away from a fight. My people have a saying, the only way out is through. We are going to show these Chromath something they have never seen before. What is that? Thessera asked. Humans, Admiral Kang replied. They are about to meet humans. Thessera looked at the word again. Humans. Terra. She searched her mind for any mention in history, any reference in ancient texts. Nothing. These people had appeared from nowhere with weapons that should not exist, moving at speeds that should be impossible. The Chromath swarm began advancing toward the human fleet. The harvest would not be delayed. Thessera watched the screens and whispered a prayer to gods she was not sure existed. She had asked the universe for help. Something had answered. But as she looked at those massive warships bristling with weapons, at those vessels that seemed built for violence on a scale she could not imagine, she wondered if she should have been more careful about what she wished for. The battle was about to begin. Admiral Kang Minho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, his hands clasped behind his back as he watched the Chromath swarm position themselves for attack. Around him his crew worked with calm efficiency, their movements practiced and precise. They had trained for situations like this. They had prepared for war among the stars. Captain Park, status report, he said without turning around. Captain Park Jisoo checked her displays. She was a small woman by human standards, but she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had seen real combat. All ships report ready, Admiral. Weapons charged. Shields at full power. The Chromath fleet is moving into attack formation. Count as 300 bioships, various sizes. Kang nodded slowly. 300 against 60. Any other species would consider those odds impossible. Humans just considered them challenging. Open a channel to the Vallani Command Center. Let them know we are about to engage the enemy. On the planet below, Thessera received the message. She immediately requested a direct communication link. Within moments, her face appeared on the main screen of the Indomitable's bridge. Kang studied her carefully. She looked similar to humans in basic structure, but everything about her seemed delicate. Her bones were visible beneath thin skin. Her movements were slow and careful, like someone afraid of breaking. Admiral Kang, Thessera said, her voice shaking slightly. Before you engage, I need to understand who you are. We have no record of humans or Terra in any galactic database. Where do you come from? Kang smiled. It was not a cruel smile, but it was not entirely friendly either. It was the smile of a predator that knows it is stronger than its prey. We come from a planet called Earth, Ambassador. It is far from here, in a region of space that galactic civilization has not yet explored. We only received your distress call because we recently developed faster-than-light communication arrays. But why did you come? Why risk your people for strangers? The Admiral's expression became more serious. Because someone asked for help. That is reason enough. Thesera felt confused by this answer. In galactic civilization, every action had a calculated purpose. Resources were measured against outcomes. The idea of helping someone simply because they asked seemed illogical. Admiral, you do not understand. The Chromath swarm cannot be stopped. They have consumed 40 worlds. Every species that has fought them has died. Then we will be the first to win, Kang said simply. Captain Park, begin the attack. The channel closed. Thesera stared at the blank screen, her hearts racing. She turned to her people in the command center. Connect me to their fleet. I want to see everything. The Villani military observers watched as the human fleet moved forward. It was all wrong. Every tactical doctrine taught in galactic military academies said that when facing a superior force, you establish defensive positions. You create shield walls. You make the enemy come to you. The humans did the opposite. They charged directly at the Chromath swarm. They are insane, the defense minister whispered. They are going to get themselves killed. But as the two fleets closed the distance, something strange happened. The human ships did not move like other vessels. They twisted and turned with an agility that should not be possible for ships of their size. They seemed to dance through space, weaving between enemy fire with movements that looked almost alive. The Chromath fired first. Their bioweapons launched streams of acid and living projectiles that could eat through any known armor. The shots hit the human ships dead on. Thesera gasped, expecting to see the vessels dissolve or break apart. Instead, the human shields flared bright blue, absorbing the impact. The ships kept coming. Impossible, Valen breathed. Those were direct hits. Their shields should have failed. The human ships returned fire. What came from their weapons was unlike anything the Villani had ever seen. Solid metal slugs accelerated to incredible speeds, missiles that moved with their own intelligence seeking targets, beams of concentrated energy that could cut through the Chromath bioships like a knife through flesh. The first Chromath vessel exploded in a ball of fire, then a second, then 5 more. On the Indomitable, Captain Park was coordinating the attack with cold precision. Squadron 3, focus fire on the large bioship at coordinates 77 Alpha. Squadron 5, protect the flanks. Do not let them surround us. Commander Lee Hyan, leading a group of smaller destroyer ships, laughed over the open communication channel. His voice was full of excitement. This is Squadron 5. We see them trying to flank. Moving to intercept. This is almost too easy. His ships broke formation and rushed toward a group of Chromath vessels, trying to circle around the main human fleet. The destroyers were fast, faster than anything the Chromath had encountered. They fired continuously, their weapons never seeming to run out of ammunition. Thesera watched the battle with growing amazement and horror. The humans fought with a combination of precision and chaos that made no sense. They followed orders, but they also seemed to improvise constantly, adapting to every change in the enemy's tactics within seconds. A Chromath bioship managed to land a solid hit on one of the human cruisers. The vessel's entire left side exploded, venting atmosphere and debris into space. Thesera cried out, certain she had just watched hundreds of humans die. But the ship did not stop fighting. Its right side weapons kept firing. It rotated to keep its good side toward the enemy and continued the battle. The crew inside that ship was still fighting even after taking damage that should have killed everyone aboard. How? The defense minister asked. How are they still alive? The answer came later after the battle. But even then it did not make sense. The Chromath swarm was breaking. After 2 hours of continuous fighting, the creatures that had destroyed 40 worlds were retreating. They left behind the wreckage of over 100 bioships. The human fleet had lost 3 vessels and suffered damage to a dozen more, but they had won. Thesera could not believe what she had witnessed. She immediately requested to visit the human flagship. Admiral Kang agreed, and within an hour, a small shuttle brought her to the Indomitable. The moment she stepped off the shuttle, she knew she was in a different world. The gravity was wrong. It pressed down on her with terrible weight. She struggled to stand upright. Her Villani guards had to help her walk. A human female approached them. She was wearing a uniform marked with medical symbols. Ambassador Thesera? I am Dr. Yoon Hajin, the fleet's chief medical officer and xenobiologist. The Admiral apologizes for the gravity. We forgot that most species cannot handle standard Earth conditions. I am adjusting it now. She pressed a control and the gravity reduced slightly. It was still heavier than Valen Prime, but the Sara could at least move without assistance. Thank you, Doctor. Your gravity is much stronger than ours, Dr. Yoon smiled. Yes, Earth has high gravity compared to most habitable worlds. It is one of many things that make our planet difficult to live on. She led them through the ship's corridors. The Sara saw human crew members moving past them, and each one made her more uncomfortable. They moved with a fluid grace that looked predatory. Their eyes seemed to track movement instinctively, following every motion in their environment. When they looked at her, she felt like prey being studied by a hunter. They entered a medical bay where injured humans were being treated. The Sara saw a man with burns covering half his body. He was conscious and talking with a nurse. Another human had a metal rod sticking through his leg, but he was sitting up and eating food. These people should be dead, the Sara whispered. Dr. Yoon looked at the injured crew with professional concern. They are hurt, yes, but humans are very difficult to kill, Ambassador. Our bodies can survive damage that would be fatal to most species. She brought up a holographic display showing human anatomy. The Sara stared at it with growing horror. The human skeletal structure was dense and heavy, designed to support their body weight under high gravity. Their muscles were thick and powerful. Their organs had redundancies, backups for critical systems. Their blood could clot rapidly to prevent death from bleeding. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every single day, Dr. Yoon explained. Earth is what we call a Class 12 death world. The gravity is high. The atmosphere contains oxygen, which is actually a corrosive element that burns through organic matter. The temperature swings from freezing to boiling. The weather includes violent storms that can destroy buildings, and the ecosystem is filled with creatures that want to eat us or poison us or both. The Sara felt her legs go weak. How did your species survive? We adapted. We evolved. We became very good at not dying. Dr. Yoon said it like it was the most normal thing in the universe. Would you like to meet the Admiral now? They continued to the bridge where Admiral Kang waited with Captain Park. Up close, the Admiral was even more intimidating. He was tall, with broad shoulders and arms that looked like they could break the Sara in half. But his eyes were kind. Ambassador, he greeted her. Welcome to the Indomitable. I am sorry we could not meet under better circumstances. As Sara looked around the bridge, every human there was monitoring multiple screens, processing information at speeds that seemed impossible. Admiral, I need to understand. Why did you really come here? What do you want from us? Kang looked genuinely confused by the question. We want nothing, Ambassador. You asked for help. We provided it. That is all. But the Vellani Military Command Center was filled with confusion and fear. On the screens in front of them, the human fleet was deploying for what they called a follow-up operation. 3 Chromath bioships had escaped the first battle and were hiding in the asteroid belt at the edge of the system. The humans were going after them. Defense Minister Korath looked at the tactical display with growing concern. They are dividing their fleet. This makes no sense. Basic military doctrine says you never split your forces when hunting a dangerous enemy. The Sara stood beside him, trying to understand human thinking. After her visit to the Indomitable, she had spent hours reading every file the humans were willing to share about their species. What she learned had kept her awake all night. I think their military doctrine is different from ours, Minister. Very different. On the screen, Commander Lee Hyon was leading a squadron of destroyers into the asteroid field. His ships moved at speeds that made Thessera's stomach turn just from watching. They weaved between massive space rocks, using the asteroids as cover while hunting their prey. Squadron 5 to all units. Lee's voice came over the communication channel. I have contact with Target 1. Moving to engage. Who wants to bet I can take it down before Squadron 3 even finds their target? Another voice responded, laughing. Squadron 3 here. You are on, Lee. Loser buys drinks when we get home. They were making bets. They were gambling while hunting creatures that had destroyed 40 worlds. Korath felt his skin go cold. They treat this like a game. No, the Sara said quietly. They treat it like a hunt. There is a difference. The humans had shared something with her during her visit. They called it evolutionary psychology. On Earth, humans had been both predator and prey. They had hunted animals for food while being hunted by larger predators. This had shaped their minds, making them comfortable with violence in a way that most galactic species were not. The Villani evolved from peaceful herbivores. Their instinct when facing danger was to hide or flee. The humans evolved from persistence hunters. Their instinct was to chase, to fight, to never give up until the target was dead. On the screen, Lee's squadron found the first Chromath bioship hiding behind a large asteroid. The creature was massive, easily 3 times the size of Lee's destroyer. It opened fire immediately, launching streams of bioacid and living missiles. Lee's ship twisted sideways, the maneuver so sharp that it should have torn the vessel apart from the stress. The bioacid missed by meters. His squadron spread out, attacking from multiple angles, giving the Chromath ship too many targets to track. "Target is trying to run," Lee reported. "Not today, Bug. Not today." His ships pursued the fleeing bioship deeper into the asteroid field. The Chromath vessel tried to lose them, but the human destroyers matched every turn, every direction change. They were faster and more agile, designed by a species that had spent thousands of years building better and better hunting tools. The chase lasted 15 minutes. When it ended, the Chromath bioship was a floating wreck, torn apart by human weapons. "Target 1 destroyed," Lee reported casually. "Squadron 3, you still looking for yours?" "We found it," came the response from Commander An Ji-won. "Engaging now." But Squadron 3's target was not hiding. It was waiting in ambush. The bioship had positioned itself in a cluster of asteroids, using them as cover. When the human ships approached, it attacked from above, catching them by surprise. 2 of An's destroyers took direct hits. One lost its main engines. The other had its bridge section torn open, exposing it to the vacuum of space. The Sara gasped. "They are going to die." But the damaged ships did not stop fighting. The destroyer with no engines used its maneuvering thrusters to spin itself around, keeping its weapons pointed at the enemy. The one with the exposed bridge had its crew in emergency suits, still operating weapons manually because the automated systems were damaged. "All ships, concentrate fire," An ordered. Her voice was calm, showing no panic despite the ambush. "Do not let it escape." The human squadron focused their weapons on the Chromath bioship. Missiles, railgun slugs, and energy beams all struck the creature at once. It tried to flee, but it was too late. The concentrated fire overwhelmed its biological armor, and it exploded in a flash of light. "Target 2 destroyed," An reported. "We have casualties. 2 ships heavily damaged. Requesting medical support?" "Acknowledged, Squadron 3, came Admiral Kang's voice. "Medical ships are on the way. Good work." In the Villani command center, Korath was staring at the damaged human ships. "How are their crews alive?" "That destroyer had its bridge open to space." The Sara pulled up the human files again. "Their emergency suits can support life for up to 6 hours in vacuum, and their bodies can survive in low-pressure environments much longer than ours. A Villani exposed to space would die in 30 seconds. A human can survive for almost 2 minutes without a suit at all. That is impossible." "No, Minister. That is adaptation. That is what happens when a species evolves on a world where survival is difficult." The 3rd Chromath bioship was found by a different squadron, led by Captain Shin Tae-young. But this one was different. It was larger than the others, covered in thick armor plating that had been harvested from destroyed ships. It was a veteran, something that had survived many battles. Captain Shin approached carefully, her science vessel accompanied by 4 military escorts. "Be careful with this one," she warned. "It has defensive adaptations we have not seen before." The bioship opened fire, and its weapons were more powerful than expected. One of the escort ships took a direct hit and lost half its hull. But again, the damaged human vessel kept fighting, its crew refusing to give up. "We need a different approach," Shin said. "This creature is too well armored for conventional weapons. I am going to try something." She ordered her science vessel forward, moving closer to the Chromath bioship than was safe. Her crew launched a series of small probes that attached themselves to the creature's hull. Within seconds, the probes began releasing a chemical compound. "What is that?" Thessera asked, watching from the command center. The human liaison officer assigned to Villani Command answered her. His name was Corporal Han Seokjin, and he seemed amused by the question. "It is a chemical weapon based on Earth biology. Captain Shin is a xenobiologist. She studied the Chromath biological structure and developed a compound that attacks their nervous system. It is essentially a poison." "You made a poison specifically designed to kill them?" "Yes, ma'am. That is what humans do. We study our enemies, find their weaknesses, and exploit them. We have been doing it for thousands of years on Earth." On the screen, the Chromath bioship began thrashing violently. Its movements became uncontrolled, random. It fired its weapons in all directions, hitting nothing. Within 5 minutes, it stopped moving entirely. Target 3 neutralized, Captain Shin reported. The compound worked better than expected, sending samples back to the fleet for mass production in case we encounter more Chromath. Admiral Kang's voice came over the communication channel. Excellent work, all squadrons. Return to formation. We are not done yet. Thessera felt a chill. Not done? The Chromath ships are all destroyed. Kang's face appeared on the main screen. He was addressing both his fleet and the Villani observers. The Chromath swarm operates from hive ships, large vessels that carry the main swarm population. The bioships we destroyed were just soldiers. If we want to make sure they never attack Velan Prime again, we need to find their hive ship and destroy it. Korath stood up from his chair. Admiral, that is suicide. Hive ships are protected by hundreds of bioships. Your fleet is damaged. You have casualties. You should return to your home and be proud of what you have accomplished. Minister, my fleet is damaged but functional. Our casualties are being treated, and we did not come here to do half a job. We are going to finish this. The human fleet began moving toward the outer system, following the trail left by the retreating Chromath ships. They were going to hunt down a hive ship, something no galactic species had ever successfully done. Thessera turned to Korath. We need to help them. They saved us. We cannot let them die. What can we do? We have no military worth mentioning. We have our minds, Thessera said. We have been studying the Chromath for years, trying to understand them. We have data about their hive ships, their behavior patterns. We can share everything with the humans. Korath nodded slowly. Do it. Give them everything we have. Over the next hours, Villani scientists transmitted every piece of data they had ever collected about the Chromath swarm. The humans absorbed the information quickly, their tactical computers processing it at incredible speeds. Captain Park Jisu reviewed the data with her tactical team. The hive ships are large but slow. They rely on their bioship escorts for protection. If we can separate the hive ship from its guards, we can destroy it. How do we do that? One of her officers asked. Park smiled. It was not a nice smile. We use bait, something the Chromath cannot resist. Several hours later, a single human destroyer moved toward the location where the Chromath hive ship was hiding. The ship was damaged, moving slowly, sending distress signals. It looked like easy prey. The Chromath could not resist. 50 bioships rushed toward the damaged destroyer, leaving their hive ship protected by only a dozen guards. The destroyer suddenly accelerated its damage. 3 days after the battle, Velan Prime held the largest celebration in its history. The streets were filled with people singing and dancing. Buildings displayed lights and colors. Children played without fear for the first time in weeks. The Chromath swarm was gone and their world was safe. But in the government tower, Thessera felt a deep unease she could not shake. She stood in her office, looking at reports about the human fleet. Medical reports, technical specifications, cultural files, everything the humans had shared with her people during the past days. The more she learned, the more disturbed she became. There was a knock on her door. Come in, she called. Defense Minister Korath entered carrying a datapad. His face showed the same concern she felt. Ambassador, we need to talk about our new friends. I know, Thessera said. I have been reading the same reports you have. Korath sat down heavily. The casualty numbers from the battle. Out of 3 human ships that were destroyed, only 12 crew members died. 12. Those ships had crews of over 200 each. How did so many survive when their vessels were blown apart? Thessera pulled up the relevant files. The humans have emergency systems we never imagined. Every crew member wears something they call a survival suit at all times during combat. These suits can keep them alive in vacuum for hours. Their ships have escape pods in every section. And their bodies, she paused, trying to find the right words. Their bodies are designed to survive trauma. I read about that, Korath said quietly. About their regeneration abilities. Ambassador, I saw a human soldier yesterday. His name was Private Nam Junho. 3 days ago, he had a metal beam go through his chest during the battle. I saw the medical reports. The beam punctured one of his lungs and broke 3 ribs. Yesterday, he was walking around the medical bay, talking and laughing. He told me he would be back on duty in a week. Thessera nodded. I met a human named Medic Osuman. She explained their healing process to me. Broken bones repair themselves in a matter of weeks. Cuts and wounds close within days. Their immune systems fight off infections that would kill us. They even have something called adrenaline that their bodies produce during danger, which makes them stronger and faster and blocks pain. That is not normal biology, Korath said. That is biological engineering. Did they modify themselves? No, they evolved this way naturally. Their planet made them this way. The defense minister stood and walked to the window, looking down at the celebrating crowds. We need to understand what we are dealing with, Thesara. These humans saved us, yes, but they are also the most dangerous species I have ever encountered. What happens if they decide we are enemies instead of friends? It was a question that haunted Thesara. She had been thinking about it constantly since the battle ended. I have requested permission to visit Earth, to see their homeworld for myself. Admiral Kang has agreed. When do you leave? Tomorrow. I am taking a small diplomatic team. We need to understand these people if we are going to share a galaxy with them. The trip to Earth took 2 weeks using human faster-than-light technology. The journey itself was uncomfortable for the Vellani delegation. Human ships were designed for human comfort, which meant high gravity, high oxygen levels in the air, and temperature ranges that the Vellani found cold. Captain Shin Tae-young, who commanded the ship transporting them, apologized repeatedly for the discomfort. We are adjusting the guest quarters as much as we can, she said. But there are limits to how much we can change the ship's environment without affecting critical systems. Thesara assured her they would manage. In truth, just being on a human ship was an education. She watched the crew work, studied their routines, learned their customs. The humans were polite and friendly, but she noticed things that made her nervous. They exercised constantly. Every crew member spent hours each day in the ship's gym, pushing their bodies until they were exhausted. When Thesara asked why, they looked at her strangely. To stay healthy, one soldier explained as if it was obvious. On Valen Prime, exercise was something you did only if your job required physical labor. The idea of voluntarily making yourself tired and sore made no sense. But for humans, it was normal, expected. They pushed their bodies because on their world, weakness meant death. She also noticed their food. The humans ate things that should be toxic. One crew member was drinking a hot black liquid called coffee that contained a stimulant chemical. Another was eating something with red peppers that would have burned a Vellani's mouth. They consumed these toxins for pleasure. We adapt, Captain Shin explained when Thesara asked about it. Humans can build tolerance to many substances that are initially harmful. Coffee, alcohol, spicy foods. Our bodies learn to process them. It is another survival trait from Earth. When they finally arrived at Earth's solar system, Thesara requested to view the planet from orbit before going to the surface. What she saw took her breath away. Earth was beautiful. Blue oceans, green and brown continents, white clouds swirling in patterns. It looked peaceful from space. But Captain Shin pulled up data displays that showed the reality. This is real-time weather data, Shin said. You see these red zones? Those are hurricane systems. Storms with winds strong enough to destroy buildings. This blue area near the South Pole is a blizzard with temperatures that would freeze most species solid. These yellow zones are deserts where the daytime temperature can kill from heat stroke. Thesara stared at the display. And humans live in all these places? Yes. We have cities in every environment on Earth. We learned to adapt to all of them. They landed at a diplomatic facility in a place called Korea, on the eastern side of a large continent. When the shuttle doors opened and Thesara stepped out, she immediately felt the difference. The gravity was crushing. Even though they had adjusted it on the ship, the full force of Earth's gravity made her knees buckle. She had to use a support frame just to walk. The air was thick and heavy, rich with oxygen that made her feel dizzy. The temperature was comfortable, but Captain Shin mentioned this was a mild day. In summer, it would be much hotter. In winter, much colder. How do you live here? Thesara whispered. A human diplomat named Ambassador Ji Soo-young greeted them with a warm smile. She was an older woman with gray in her hair, and she moved with the same predatory grace all humans seem to have. Welcome to Earth, Ambassador Thesara. I know our world is difficult for visitors. We have prepared special accommodations for you and your team. The accommodations were inside a dome where the gravity was reduced, and the atmosphere was adjusted to match Valen Prime as closely as possible. It was comfortable, but Thesara felt like she was in a cage, separated from the real Earth outside. Over the next week, She met with human scientists, historians, and politicians. Each conversation added to her understanding and her fear. Dr. Bei Minjae, a human psychologist, explained human emotional bonding. "We form attachments easily," he said. "To family, friends, even to animals and objects. This trait helped us survive on Earth by creating social groups that protected each other. But it also means we feel loyalty very strongly. We will fight to protect those we consider ours, even if it is not logical." Linguist Nam Yunji taught her about human language and expressions. She was shocked by how many phrases casually referenced death and violence. Break a leg meant good luck. Killed it meant did well. Die laughing meant found something very funny. Your language is built around violence, the Sara observed. Nam shrugged. Violence is part of our history. We do not hide from it. We accept it as part of life. But the most disturbing conversation was with a military historian named Colonel Ryu Daesung. He took the Sara through human military history, showing her thousands of years of warfare. Weapons that evolved from simple clubs to nuclear bombs, tactics that ranged from individual combat to coordinated attacks involving millions of soldiers. We have been fighting each other since before we had written language, Ryu explained. War is in our cultural memory. Every human civilization has military traditions. We study ancient battles the way you might study ancient art. But you are one species now, Thessera said. You have united under one government. Why do you still maintain such a large military? Ryu looked at her seriously. Because we learned, through hard experience, that peace is only possible when you are strong enough to defend it. We maintain our military not because we want war, but because we want to prevent it. On her last day on Earth, Thessara visited a museum dedicated to human history. She walked through exhibits showing human evolution, from simple primates to modern humans. She saw displays of natural disasters, ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts. Each one was an extinction event that should have wiped out humanity. But they survived every single one. She stopped at an exhibit showing the extinct species of Earth. Hundreds of other animals had not survived. But humans had. Through adaptation, innovation, and sheer stubbornness, they had outlasted everything else. That night, Thessara sent a report back to the Villani Council. It was marked urgent. We have allied ourselves with a species that does not understand the concept of giving up, she wrote. They have survived things that would have destroyed us 1,000 times over. Their bodies are built to endure damage. Their minds are built to solve problems. Their culture. 6 months after the battle, the human diplomatic station on Valen Prime was complete. It was a massive structure built on the outskirts of the capital city, designed to house 300 humans permanently. The building had its own gravity generators, atmosphere processors, and temperature controls because humans could not comfortably live in standard Villani environments for long periods. Ambassador Ji Soo-young arrived with the first permanent staff. She was a patient woman who understood that building trust between species would take time, but even her patience was tested by how different humans and Villani truly were. The first major incident happened during a formal dinner between Villani officials and human diplomats. The humans had tried to prepare food that would be safe for both species. The Villani brought dishes made from local plants and fungi. Everything seemed fine until dessert. One of the human staff members, a young woman named Choi Yuna, bit into a Villani fruit and her face turned red. Her eyes watered. She coughed violently. The Villani host panicked, thinking she was dying, but the other humans just laughed. One of them handed Yuna a glass of water. Too sour for you? He asked, smiling. Yuna nodded, wiping her eyes. Very sour. But actually kinda good. Can I have another piece? The Villani were shocked. The fruit she had eaten contained acid that would cause severe pain to Villani taste receptors. They only ate it in tiny amounts, heavily diluted. This human had eaten a large piece and wanted more. Does it not hurt? Thessara asked carefully. Yes, Yuna admitted. But humans often eat things that cause pain. Spicy peppers, sour fruits, bitter coffee. We enjoy it. This was the first of many cultural shocks. Over the following weeks, the Villani observed human behavior with growing confusion and sometimes fear. The humans exercised constantly. Every morning, the diplomatic staff would gather in their gym and push their bodies to exhaustion. They ran on machines until they were covered in sweat. They lifted heavy weights until their muscles shook. They practiced combat techniques against each other, actually hitting and throwing each other to the ground. Velen, who was now assigned as a permanent liaison to the human embassy, watched these exercise sessions with disturbed fascination. "Why do they hurt themselves on purpose?" he asked the Sara. "They do not see it as hurting themselves," she explained. "They see it as making themselves stronger. On Earth, if you do not stay strong, you become weak. And weakness means death." The concept of sports was even more confusing. The humans organized games where they competed against each other, sometimes in activities that looked dangerous. They played something called basketball, where they threw a ball and ran at high speeds, often colliding with each other. They played soccer, where they kicked a ball and seemed to accept getting kicked themselves as part of the game. One day, a group of Vellani children gathered outside the human embassy to watch the humans playing soccer. The children were fascinated and scared at the same time. One human player collided hard with another, and both fell to the ground. The Vellani children gasped, certain they had just witnessed serious injury, but the humans just stood up, laughed, and continued playing. A Vellani parent who was watching asked Ambassador G, "Are they not in pain?" "Probably," G admitted. "But pain is temporary. The fun of the game is worth it." This attitude toward pain was something the Vellani could not understand. For them, pain was a signal to stop immediately. For humans, pain was just information. The linguistic differences created more problems. Translator Nam Yunji worked tirelessly to help both species understand each other. But human expressions often caused confusion or alarm. During a business meeting, a human engineer said their project would be killer. The Vellani representative stopped the meeting, concerned that someone was going to die. Yunji had to explain that killer meant very good in human slang. Another time, a human said they were dying to try a new Vellani food. Again, panic. Again, explanations that this was just an expression meaning very excited. The phrase break a leg, said to wish someone luck, caused a Vellani actor to refuse to perform, thinking she was being threatened. When humans said they would kill time, the Vellani thought they were discussing some kind of temporal weapon. "Your language is violent even when you are being friendly," Tessara observed during a language lesson. Yunji nodded thoughtfully. "Yes, I suppose it is. We use death and violence as metaphors because they are common concepts in our culture, but we do not actually mean them literally. It is like you use references to growing and blooming, because those are common in your culture as a plant-based species. But we do not say things like, 'I am dying of hunger,' when we are slightly hungry," Tessara pointed out. "True," Yunji admitted. "Humans do exaggerate for emphasis. It is another quirk of our communication style." The biggest cultural shock came from human emotional responses. Dr. Bei Minjae, who had stayed on Velan Prime to continue psychological research, discovered something disturbing during his studies. Humans formed emotional bonds with almost anything. They had pets, animals they kept in their homes for companionship. They named their machines and ships and sometimes talked to them. They felt grief when objects broke. They developed emotional attachments to places, to ideas, to abstract concepts. One human soldier, Sergeant Kim Dong-yun, had a robot that helped him with maintenance tasks. He had named it Lucky and talked to it constantly, even though it was just a machine with basic artificial intelligence. "Why do you treat it like a person?" Velen asked him one day. Dong-yun looked at Lucky with genuine affection. "Because Lucky has saved my life 3 times. Once it detected a radiation leak before my sensors did. Another time it found a hull breach I had missed. And once it pulled me out of a collapsed section after an explosion. Lucky is my partner. But it is just a machine. It is programmed to help you. Does that make its help less valuable?" Dong-hyun asked. "Lucky does its job well. That deserves respect and appreciation." This tendency to form bonds extended to the Vellani themselves. Within months, many humans had developed friendships with their Vellani counterparts. They shared meals, told stories, helped with work projects. The humans seemed genuinely happy to know the Vellani. The Sara found this both touching and concerning. "They become attached very quickly," she told Dr. Bei during one of their regular meetings. "Is this normal for your species?" "Very normal," Bei confirmed. "Humans are social creatures. We need connections with others to be psychologically healthy. Isolation is one of the worst punishments we can imagine. We form communities wherever we go. But what if we betray them? What if we become enemies? Bay's expression became serious. Then they would feel betrayed, and betrayal is one of the deepest pains humans can experience. We remember those who hurt us, but we also forgive, given time and reason. Humans are complicated, Ambassador. We can feel intense loyalty and intense anger, sometimes toward the same person. The humans also had strange rituals that the Villani slowly learned about. They celebrated birthdays marking the day they were born every year with parties and gifts. They had holidays commemorating historical events, many of which involved wars and conflicts. They observed moments of silence for the dead, showing respect for those who were gone. One human tradition particularly puzzled the Villani: humor about death. Humans told jokes about dying, about dangerous situations, about their own mortality. They laughed at things that should be terrifying. "It is a coping mechanism," explained Corporal Han Seokjin when asked about this. "If you can laugh at death, it has less power over you. Humor helps us deal with fear." The Villani tried to understand, but it was difficult. They had no tradition of joking about serious matters. Humor in their culture was about gentle observations and wordplay, not about confronting their deepest fears. Perhaps the most disturbing discovery was human protectiveness. Several times humans intervened in situations that did not concern them, simply because they felt someone needed help. Once, a Villani child fell from a climbing structure in a park. Before any Villani adult could react, a human jogger named Private Eugenia sprinted across the park, covering 100 meters in seconds that would have taken a Villani minutes. She reached the child and immediately began checking for injuries, using her human medical training to ensure the child was okay. The child's parents were grateful but also frightened by how fast the human had moved, how strong she was when she picked up their child. Gina was just trying to help, but to the Villani she looked like a predator grabbing prey. "I am sorry if I scared you," Gina said after the parents' fear became obvious. "On Earth, we are taught to help when someone is hurt. I acted on instinct. This protective instinct extended to threats as well. When a small fire broke out in the Villani commercial district, human embassy staff responded before the local fire services arrived. They ran into burning buildings to rescue people, wearing only basic protective gear, moving through smoke and heat that would have killed Villani within seconds. 5 humans were injured rescuing Villani citizens. When asked why they risked themselves, one of them said simply, "Because we could help. That is reason enough." The Sarah realized that humans did not just save people because it was diplomatic or strategic. They did it because their psychology was built for mutual protection. On Earth, survival meant taking care of. The message arrived on a quiet morning, exactly 18 months after humanity's first contact with the Villani. It was transmitted on ancient frequencies, encrypted with codes that predated most modern galactic civilizations. The signature identified the sender as the hierarchy, and every species in known space recognized that name with fear and respect. Ambassador Ji Soo-young was having breakfast with Thessara when the alert came through. Both women looked at the message header and felt their blood run cold. "The hierarchy," Thessara whispered. "They have been silent for over 1,000 years. Why are they contacting us now?" She read the message quickly, her expression growing more serious with each line. "They are not contacting us. They are contacting humanity. This is an ultimatum." Within an hour, every human embassy in known space received the same message. Admiral Kang Minho read it aboard the Indomitable, which was currently stationed near Velen Prime. Captain Park Jisoo stood beside him, her face carefully neutral. The message was formal, written in ancient galactic standard language. It read, "To the species identifying as human from Terra, you have entered galactic space without authorization. You have deployed military forces without permission. You have interfered in conflicts beyond your authority. The hierarchy, guardians of galactic order for 10,000 years, hereby commands you to submit to our authority. You will disarm your military vessels. You will cease offensive operations. You will accept hierarchy oversight of your expansion into space. You have 30 days to comply. Failure to comply will result in quarantine enforcement. You will be confined to your home system by force. This is not negotiable. This is the order of the hierarchy." The message was signed by Talvorian, Supreme Chancellor of the Hierarchy Council. Kang read it 3 times, then handed the datapad to Park. "What do you think?" Park's jaw tightened. "I think they are used to everyone obeying them. Send a request to Earth Command. We need instructions on how to respond." The Villani government was in chaos. Defense Minister Korath called an emergency council meeting. Thessera attended, still processing what she had just learned. The hierarchy has never made idle threats, Korath said to the assembled officials. If they say they will quarantine humanity, they mean it. Their fleet is enormous. They command resources that dwarf anything we have ever seen. Even the humans cannot stand against them. Thessera was not so sure. Minister, have you seen human military doctrine? They do not surrender ever. Then they will die, Korath said bluntly. And when the hierarchy destroys them, we will have lost our greatest ally. We must convince the humans to submit. But when Thessera presented this argument to Ambassador G, the human woman simply smiled sadly. Ambassador Thessera, thank you for your concern. But my people will never accept subjugation. We would rather die free than live as subjects. That is madness, Thessera said. The hierarchy is undefeatable. They have existed for 10,000 years. They have maintained galactic peace through strength and wisdom. Have they? G asked. Or have they maintained control through fear? There is a difference. Over the next week, humanity's response became clear. Earth Command transmitted their reply to the hierarchy, and they shared it with their allies. Admiral Kang received Thessera in his office to show her personally. The human response was short. Thank you for your message. We acknowledge your historical role in galactic governance. However, humanity does not accept any authority over our species except our own. We came to this region of space to help those in need, not to conquer or control. We will continue to operate as we have been. We invite dialogue and cooperation, but we will not submit to ultimatums. Respectfully, United Earth Government. Thessera read it with growing horror. You are refusing them. You are actually refusing the hierarchy. Yes, Kang said calmly. We are. They will come with overwhelming force. Their fleet numbers in the thousands. You have barely 100 ships in all of human space. Then it will be an interesting fight, Kang said. But his eyes were serious. He was not joking. Captain Park had been quietly working at a computer terminal. She looked up and said, Admiral, I have been analyzing the hierarchy's military records. What I found is interesting. Share with us, Kang ordered. Park brought up historical data on the main display. The hierarchy has the largest fleet in the galaxy. That is not disputed, but they have not fought a real war in over 3,000 years. Their last major conflict was against the Corvan Rebellion, which they crushed in 4 days. Since then, they have only dealt with minor uprisings and border disputes. What does that tell us? Thessera asked. It tells us their tactics are built on intimidation, Park explained. They show overwhelming force and their enemies surrender without fighting. They are used to psychological warfare, not actual prolonged combat. Kang nodded slowly. They have forgotten how to fight someone who will not surrender. Exactly, sir. Their doctrine is designed to impress and scare. But humans do not scare easily. 3 weeks passed. The hierarchy sent 2 more messages, each one more threatening than the last. Humanity responded politely but firmly each time. They would not submit. On day 28, the hierarchy's fleet arrived. They entered the Valen system with a display of power that made every watching species tremble. 500 warships, each one massive and ancient, carrying weapons and technology refined over millennia. The flagship, a vessel called the Eternal Vigilance, was larger than any human station. The hierarchy fleet moved into formation with perfect precision. Their ships gleamed like jewels in the starlight, beautiful and terrible. Admiral Kang looked at the tactical display showing the enemy fleet. Behind him, his officers waited for orders. The entire human fleet in the region consisted of 60 ships. They were outnumbered more than 8 to 1. Status of all vessels? Kang asked. All ships report combat ready, Admiral. Park responded. All crew at battle stations. All weapons charged. We are ready. On the planet below, the Villani watched in terror. Thessera stood in the observation room of the government tower, unable to look away from the sky where so many ships now gathered. The hierarchy opened communications. The face that appeared was Talvorian himself, an alien with features that looked ancient and wise. His species had evolved intelligence millions of years before humans even existed. His eyes held the certainty of someone who had never been disobeyed. Admiral Kang Minho of the human species, Talvorian said, his voice carrying the weight of ages. This is your final opportunity to comply with hierarchy directives. Surrender your military command and accept our authority. If you refuse, we will disable your fleet and confine your species to your home system. You cannot win this confrontation. We have ended 1,000 rebellions. Yours will be no different. Kang stood before the communication screen. His posture relaxed, but his eyes hard as steel. Chancellor Talvorian, I respect your position and your history. But I must decline your order. Humanity will not be subjugated. If you wish to attack us, that is your choice. But know this, we will fight back. Talvorian's expression did not change. You are brave but foolish, Admiral. Your bravery will be remembered in our historical records. Hierarchy fleet, disable the human vessels. Use minimum force. We do not wish unnecessary casualties. The communication ended. The hierarchy fleet began moving forward with slow, deliberate precision. Their formation was perfect, a display of discipline refined over thousands of years of military tradition. On the Indomitable, Captain Park was coordinating with all human ships. All vessels, prepare for combat. Execute Plan Delta 7 on my mark. General Huang Yuna, who had arrived from Earth specifically for this confrontation, stood beside Admiral Kang. She was humanity's most experienced tactical commander, and she had spent the past 3 weeks studying everything known about the hierarchy. They think we will try to defend, she said quietly. They expect us to form a shield wall and try to outlast them. That would be the logical response, Kang agreed. Good thing we are not logical, Yuna said with a cold smile. Captain Park, execute the plan. What happened next shocked every observer. The human fleet did not form a defensive position. They did not create a shield wall. They did not try to protect their vessels. Instead, they scattered. 60 ships broke into 12 groups of 5, each group moving in different directions at maximum speed. They were not fleeing. They were wolf-packing, using tactics developed by submarine captains in Earth's ancient oceans. The hierarchy fleet tried to adjust, but their formation was designed for overwhelming a static enemy. They had never faced an opponent that refused to hold position. Commander An Jiwon led her squadron in a mad dash straight through the hierarchy formation, weapons firing continuously. Her ships took hits, shields flaring under enemy fire, but they did not stop. They emerged on the other side, having caused chaos in the enemy ranks. Other human squadrons attacked from different angles, forcing the hierarchy to split their attention. It was exactly like wolves hunting prey much larger than themselves, attacking from all sides, never giving the prey a moment to focus. Captain Lee Seojun had been secretly in communication with Earth's military command. While the hierarchy had been busy threatening the visible human fleet, Earth had been positioning additional forces just outside the system, hidden in stealth mode. Admiral, Earth Command reports additional forces in Posit. Hour 3 of the battle, the hierarchy fleet had lost 15 ships. The humans had lost 8. By traditional military calculations, the hierarchy was winning. But the ancient species was starting to understand that traditional calculations did not apply to these. Deathworlders. Commander Lee Hyun's squadron was leading a suicidal charge through the center of the hierarchy formation. His destroyer had lost shields entirely. Hull breaches were venting atmosphere in 3 sections. His communications officer was dead. His second-in-command was injured, but Lee was laughing as he fired every weapon his ship still had operational. This is Squadron 5 to all human vessels, he shouted over the communication channel. Who wants to bet I can ram that big flagship before they shoot me down? Negative, Commander Lee, Admiral Kang's voice cut through. I need you alive. Break off and retreat to repair position. Sir, with respect, I think I can make it. That is an order. Commander. Lee sighed dramatically but obeyed. His damaged ship limping away from the main battle, 2 other destroyers moved to cover his retreat, their weapons creating a shield of fire that the hierarchy ships had to respect. On the Eternal Vigilance, Talvorian was reviewing casualty reports with growing disbelief. How are they still fighting? We have destroyed or disabled 20 of their vessels. The rest are damaged. They should be requesting terms of surrender. His tactical officer, a member of the ancient Mexari species, pulled up data on human biology. Chancellor, I believe I understand the problem. The humans are not operating under the same physical limitations as other species. Look at these survival rates. The data showed something impossible. Human ships that had taken catastrophic damage still had crew survival rates above 60%. Vessels that should have been derelict tombs were still launching escape pods hours after being hit. Some damaged ships had crew members repairing systems in real time, fixing damage while still under fire. Their redundancy systems are excessive, the tactical officer explained. Every critical system has multiple backups. Their crew can survive in conditions that would kill most galactic species, and their damage control doctrine is built around keeping ships fighting long past the point where we would abandon them. Talvorian remembered something from the human biological profiles. They evolved on a Class 12 death world. Yes, Chancellor, which means they are built to survive. Destroying them is much harder than we anticipated. Hour 7. Captain Park Jisoo coordinated a strike from 3 different squadrons simultaneously. The hierarchy fleet tried to establish a defensive perimeter, but the humans kept finding gaps. They fought like water, flowing around strong points and exploiting every weakness. General Huang Yuna had been studying the hierarchy flagship. She noticed it always stayed at the center of their formation, protected by layers of escort vessels. It was a command ship, not a frontline combatant. An important target, Admiral, she said quietly to Kang. I have an idea. It is risky. How risky? Very. But if it works, we can end this battle quickly. Kang looked at her and saw the same determination he had seen in countless human warriors throughout history. Explain your plan. 10 minutes later, a single human cruiser began moving toward the hierarchy flagship. It was heavily damaged, moving slowly, broadcasting distress signals. It looked like easy prey. The hierarchy escort ships moved to intercept it. But the cruiser suddenly accelerated, using emergency power reserves. It was not fleeing. It was charging. It is attempting to ram us, the hierarchy tactical officer warned. Intercept and destroy. Multiple ships opened fire on the approaching cruiser. It took hit after hit, chunks of its hull tearing away, but it did not stop. At the last moment, just before impact, the cruiser released a kinetic payload. A massive solid slug accelerated to relativistic speed. The hierarchy flagship's shields were designed to stop energy weapons and missiles. They were not designed to stop an object moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The payload hit the flagship's shield generator directly. The shields flickered and failed. Now, General Yuna ordered. The damaged cruiser had been a distraction. While the hierarchy focused on it, the hidden Earth reinforcements had moved into position. 40 fresh human ships suddenly appeared, dropping out of stealth mode. They all fired at once, targeting the now unshielded flagship. The Eternal Vigilance took dozens of hits within seconds. Its armor held, but it was severely damaged. Talvorian was thrown from his command chair as explosions rocked the ancient vessel. Evacuate the bridge, his security officer ordered. Move to the secondary command center. But Talvorian stood up, his ancient body protesting. No, I will not abandon my post. All ships execute tactical retreat. Reform at position Gamma 7. The hierarchy fleet began withdrawing in perfect formation even as they took more damage. Their discipline was remarkable. But they were retreating. For the first time in recorded history, the hierarchy was backing down from a fight. Hour 15. Both fleets had pulled back to recover and regroup. The space between them was filled with debris, disabled ships, and emergency beacons. On the Indomitable, Admiral Kang was receiving damage reports. 23 human ships were destroyed or too damaged to continue fighting. Another 15 were operational but hurt. They had started with 100 ships total, counting the reinforcements. Now they had 62 combat-capable vessels. The hierarchy had lost 48 ships. They still had over 400 operational vessels. By any logical calculation, they should press their advantage and finish the battle, but they were not advancing. Captain Park noticed it first. Sir, the hierarchy fleet is not moving. They are maintaining position at the system edge. They are trying to decide what to do, General Yuna said. They have never been in a situation like this before. They won with numbers, but the cost was higher than they expected. Thessera had been watching the entire battle from the surface. She contacted the Indomitable immediately. Admiral Kang, please. You have proven your point. You can fight. You can hurt them. But you cannot win. Please negotiate before more people die. Kang's face on the screen showed exhaustion, but also something else. Pride, perhaps. Or maybe just determination. Ambassador, we are not trying to win. We are trying to not lose. There is a difference. I do not understand. The hierarchy thinks in terms of dominance, Kang explained. They believe they rule because they are stronger. We need to show them that ruling by strength alone is not enough. We need to show them that some species will fight rather than submit, no matter the cost. Hour 20. The hierarchy sent a communication request. Admiral Kang accepted it. Talvorian appeared on the screen. His command center was visible behind him, damaged but functional. He looked tired, old. For the first time, his certainty seemed shaken. "Admiral Kang," he said slowly, "your species has fought well, better than we anticipated. But this battle serves no purpose. We can continue until all your ships are destroyed. You know this." "Yes," Kang agreed. "We will all die, but we will not surrender, and you will lose another 100 ships killing us. Maybe more." "Is that acceptable to you, Chancellor?" Talvorian was silent for a long moment. "What do you want, human?" "The same thing we wanted before this battle started. Freedom. The right to travel space without asking permission. The right to help species that need help. The right to defend ourselves and our allies. We do not want your territory. We do not want to overthrow you. We just want to be left alone to do what we think is right." "That is chaos," Talvorian said. "Galactic order requires central authority." "Then your order is built on forcing others to obey," Kang replied. "That is not order. That is control, and humans will never accept it." Hour 22. Behind the scenes, frantic communication was happening throughout the hierarchy leadership. Species that had been silent for centuries suddenly had opinions. The younger species, the ones who had always obeyed the hierarchy without question, were watching. They were seeing something impossible. They were seeing resistance that worked. If the hierarchy destroyed humanity now, they would create martyrs. If they let humanity go, they would show weakness. Either choice would crack the foundation of their authority. Hour 25. A compromise was proposed by a neutral species, the Torvan Collective. They suggested a treaty. Humanity would be recognized as an independent power. They could operate freely in unclaimed space. They would not interfere with hierarchy member worlds without permission. The hierarchy would not attempt to control human expansion or military operations. It was not everything either side wanted, but it was something both could accept without losing face. Hour 28. Admiral Kang reviewed the treaty terms with his command staff. Captain Park pointed out several clauses that could be interpreted in ways unfavorable to humanity. General Yuna noted that the treaty did not explicitly prohibit future hierarchy intervention. "It is not perfect," Kang acknowledged, "but it gives us what we need most, freedom to act. We can accept this." He contacted Earth Command. They discussed for 2 hours. Finally, the United Earth government authorized acceptance of the treaty. Hour 30. Both fleets received the treaty terms. Talvorian read them carefully, his ancient mind processing implications that would affect galactic civilization for millennia. "If we accept this," his tactical officer said quietly, "we acknowledge. 2 years after the 30-hour war, the galaxy was a different place. The absolute authority of the hierarchy had been replaced by something more complex, more uncertain but also more hopeful. Change had come, whether everyone was ready for it or not." Ambassador Ji Soo-young stood before the Galactic Council for the first time. The chamber was ancient, built thousands of years before humanity had even developed written language. Representatives from 200 species filled the seats, all of them watching her with varying degrees of curiosity, fear, and respect. Talvorian sat in the Chancellor's position, his ancient eyes studying the human woman. The hierarchy still held significant power, but they no longer ruled by decree alone. Now they had to convince, negotiate, and sometimes compromise. "Ambassador G," Talvorian said formally, "you have requested this assembly to propose a new alliance structure. The Council will hear your proposal." G stepped to the center of the chamber. She had spent months preparing this speech, working with dozens of species to build consensus. But now, facing the actual moment, she decided to speak from her heart instead of from prepared notes. "Honored representatives," she began. 2 years ago, my species entered galactic space for the first time. We did so because we heard a cry for help from a species we had never met. The Villani were being destroyed by the Chromath swarm and no one was helping them. So we did." She paused, looking around the chamber. "We did not ask for permission. We did not calculate the political cost. We simply helped because it was right. And that decision has led us here, to this moment." The Sara, now representing the Villani as their senior ambassador, watched with pride. The Villani were no longer a terrified species hiding from threats. They had become vocal advocates for change, inspired by the humans who had saved them. The galaxy operates on a system built over thousands of years. G continued. The strong make the rules. The weak follow them. Power determines policy. This system has brought a kind of peace, yes, but it is a peace built on inequality and fear. Some representatives shifted uncomfortably. Speaking so bluntly about the galactic power structure was not done. But G was human, and humans apparently did not care much about what was done. Humanity proposes something different, she said. We propose the Free Worlds Coalition, an alliance of species committed to mutual defense, shared resources, and most importantly, equality. No species commands, no species submits. We cooperate as partners, not as rulers and subjects. A representative from the Mexari Federation stood. His name was Korvax, and he was known as a conservative voice. Ambassador G, with respect, your proposal sounds noble but impractical. Equality sounds good, but some species are stronger than others. Some are more advanced. How can the weak and strong be truly equal? G smiled. You are right that some species are stronger. Humans are physically powerful because our homeworld forced us to be, but the Villani are brilliant engineers. The Torvan are master diplomats. The Yulani have medical knowledge that far exceeds ours. Every species has strengths. True equality means recognizing that different strengths have equal value. And what about military defense? Korvax pressed. The hierarchy maintains peace through superior force. How will your coalition defend itself? Through cooperation, G replied. Humanity will provide military leadership and training, but we will teach other species to defend themselves, not do it for them. We want partners who can stand beside us, not clients who hide behind us. Talvorian spoke. And what of the hierarchy? Where do we fit in this new order you propose? G met his gaze directly. The hierarchy has wisdom earned through millennia of experience. You have knowledge that younger species need. You could be teachers, guides, advisors. You do not need to rule to be respected. Your value comes from what you know, not from your military strength. It was a radical idea. The hierarchy had always ruled through power. The concept of maintaining influence through wisdom and cooperation instead of force was foreign to them. But Talvorian was old enough to recognize truth when he heard it. You suggest we become what we once claimed to be, guardians, not masters. Yes, G said simply. The debate continued for hours. Some species enthusiastically supported the Free Worlds Coalition. Others were skeptical. Some feared that without the hierarchy's authority, the galaxy would descend into chaos. Others welcomed the chance for independence. In the end, 47 species signed the founding charter of the Free Worlds Coalition. It was not a majority of galactic civilization, but it was a beginning. The charter was simple. Member species agreed to mutual defense, shared scientific research, open trade, and freedom of movement. Most importantly, they agreed that no single species would have authority over the others. Decisions would be made by consensus when possible, by majority vote when necessary. Humanity was a founding member, but not the leader. Admiral Kang had insisted on this. If we lead the coalition, he told his government, it becomes a human empire with extra steps. That is not what we want. We want actual equality. So the coalition's rotating leadership position went to Ambassador Thessera for the first term. She was shocked when elected. Me. But the humans are the ones who made this possible. Which is exactly why it should not be a human, explained Ambassador G. You understand both sides. You know the old galactic order because you lived under it. You know human thinking because you have worked with us. You are the bridge we need. Thessera accepted with tears in her eyes. The terrified diplomat who had sent that desperate distress call years ago had become one of the most influential figures in galactic politics. The hierarchy did not join the Free Worlds Coalition, but they did not oppose it either. Talvorian understood that the galaxy was changing. His choice was to adapt or become irrelevant. We will watch, he told his council. We will see if this experiment in equality succeeds or fails. If it fails, the galaxy will return to needing strong leadership. If it succeeds, he paused considering. If it succeeds, perhaps we have been wrong for 10,000 years. One of the most important initiatives of the new coalition was the Interspecies University, established on Valen Prime. Dr. Yoon Ha-jin became its first director. The university's mission was to share knowledge across species barriers. Humans have survival skills learned on a death world, Hajin explained during the opening ceremony. But we have so much to learn from others. The Villani understand energy systems in ways we are only beginning to grasp. The Torvan have philosophical frameworks that could help us understand consciousness. Every species has knowledge worth sharing. The university accepted students from any coalition species. Classes mixed different beings, forcing them to work together and learn from each other. It was chaotic at first. Cultural misunderstandings were common. But over time, students learned to appreciate their differences rather than fear them. One early success story was a joint research project between human and Villani engineers. They combined human durability with Villani precision to create a new generation of spacesuits that could protect almost any species in extreme environments. It was a simple example, but it proved that cooperation could achieve things that no single species could manage alone. Meanwhile, the Terra Defense Coalition was restructured. Admiral Kang remained in command, but the mission changed. Instead of just defending humanity, the TDC became a training force for the Free Worlds Coalition. Captain Park Ji-soo led the military education program. Species from across the coalition sent soldiers to train with humans. It was difficult. Most species were not physically capable of matching human combat abilities. But Park understood that strength came in many forms. "You will never be as fast as a human," she told a class of Villani recruits, "but you can be smarter. You can use technology to compensate. You can develop tactics that use your strengths instead of trying to match ours." She taught them that military power was not just about physical force. It was about strategy, coordination, logistics, intelligence, skills that any species could learn. Some of the Villani students struggled with the human approach to training. The humans pushed them hard, demanding more than they thought they could give. But they also supported them, encouraged them, celebrated their successes. One Villani soldier named Kova completed the training program and returned home. His family asked him what he had learned from the humans. "They taught me that limits are mostly in our minds," he said. "That we are capable of more than we believe. That courage is not the absence of fear, but acting despite fear." These were lessons that rippled through coalition species. The humans were not just teaching military skills. They were teaching a philosophy of resilience that came from surviving a death world. Not everything was smooth. There were incidents where human protective instincts caused problems. A human patrol ship responded to a distress call from a Mexari transport without official authorization, violating diplomatic protocols. The humans saw someone who needed help. The Mexari saw unwanted interference. Ambassador G had to smooth over many such incidents. "My people mean well," she explained repeatedly. "But we are still learning how to operate in a society where not everyone wants or needs our help. Please be patient with us." Most species were patient, recognizing that human intentions were good even when their methods were clumsy. But there were also